Howdy, folks. This is going to be a very abbreviated edition of the show tonight. We had its IG Live special, which we always say comes on Friday nights. Now it comes on Saturday morning, a little bit after 11 p.m. into midnight, as yours truly greets you on a night where the eyes are starting to fade and my patience is too. I am Matthew Hatfield. We appreciate you all tuning in, whether you're watching on YouTube on Commonwealth Sports TV, on Twitter or the X at Hatfield Sports, Facebook, LinkedIn, IG for all you out there. I'm in a cranky mood. I'm wearing the Diamondbacks hat. They blew a 2-0 lead against the San Diego Padres as their wild card hopes are getting ready to go up in the smokes. I'm not cranky. I'm excited and happy for all the UVA fans out there as the Wahoos win a big game, and I do mean a very big game over Florida State, 46-38 in double overtime. Gave up 514 yards of offense, had some issues, but my goodness, they're 4-1, 2-0 in the ACC because the loss to NC State did not count in the conference standings. And about 30 years ago, they knock off FSU and they do it in Charlottesville. Everybody storms the field. One of the biggest wins they've had in a long, long time, and certainly the biggest one for Tony Elliott, who no longer is on the hot seat, and he is living large. And we could be talking about UVA sneaking in the back door to the ACC championship game. Could have major recruiting ramifications. But I'm cranky before I get to my hats hits because for those of you out there that know, I'm a guy that relies heavily on the computer. I have the tablet, had the touchpad, and I had the blue screen of death tonight. And it prevented me from doing my live game vlog in the first half, and I was ready to pitch the computer out the press box window, which would not have gone well for me or any of the patrons out there in Suffolk for Kings Fork Oscar Smith. Fortunately, the computer fired up in the second half. And without it, we wouldn't be seeing me on the YouTube or the Facebook or the Twitter or the X. But it's got me very disturbed right now. And it's going to get me very little sleep, if any, before I have to get on the mic for Old Dominion football against Liberty. But it's a monster day of college football on Saturday. All kinds of big matchups with Oregon, Penn State, and Alabama, Georgia, and so many others of consequence. And, of course, there's a big high school game in the 757 with Phoebus and Warwick, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, on 757 Sports Talk with yours truly and the coach, Ed Young. Speaking of Ed Young, if he's still watching and hasn't gone to sleep yet, I'm blaming you, not because your Yankees are winning and my D-backs are losing, but because I'm having all these issues. It's always your fault. Somehow, some way. Trust me when I say that. But let's get to the 5 hats hits and a couple quick hitters before we bid adieu. Number 1 on the hats hits that we had up on the X or the Twitter, as we like to call it, was simply, tell you what, game of the night without any question in Stafford, Fredericksburg area. We've been talking about it, the seatbelt district. I mentioned it, I think, on my last hats hits, that it was the best or most entertaining, I should say, not best, most entertaining district in the state, the Commonwealth District, where you have Brook Point and Stafford and North Stafford and Colonial Forge and Riverbend and all these teams that are scoring lots of points and last plays at a game type of football. They got themselves a treat, and that's probably the game I should have been at. 27-26, Colonial Forge erases the 13-0 halftime deficit. You talk about some heartbreaking losses for North Stafford, by the way, who Colonial Forge beat 27-26. North Stafford had a double-digit lead in the opener on Battlefield, whose regular season winning streak is now approaching 50 after they thumped Independence on this particular Friday night. I guess it's now Saturday morning. They did win in overtime over Woodbridge last week, but then they lose this one on the last play of the game, a 6-yard TD pass from Brock Brimhall, who had to complete a 4th down on that drive to keep it alive, finds Jeremiah Wise for the winning score. And it's a Forge team with a lot of weapons for Coach John Brown. They've got Darion Majid, one of the best sophomores in Virginia, just got offered by Old Dominion this week. They've got Tayshawn Jones, who's already committed to ODU. They got Torrey Martin running the football. They have guys that can make plays, and they are the defending Region 6B champs, having won the region last year as a number 6 seed, winning 3 straight road playoff games before going to Chesapeake and then getting handled by Oscar Smith, who's been a nemesis of theirs in the state playoffs for many years now. We'll get to Oscar Smith at the very end of this, but my goodness, heck of a win, and it's a championship type of medal win for Colonial Forge, which has to get through that very difficult Region 6B to find themselves back in the state playoffs. And this type of win, character revealing and building, helps them on that journey there. They have a long ways to go, some things to clean up. I'm sure Coach Brown is going to harp on those things. But we've got them number 2 in the state in Class 6, only behind Oscar Smith. And it's a type of win, though it's not pretty in terms of the overall performance, it's a type of win that you got to have on a journey to a championship, be it on a district, regional, or state level. So major props. That was the most exciting game. Back and forth. North Stafford made plays with their quarterback, Mr. Sullivan. Kana Sullivan made plays. They have a lot of playmakers, and they are a tough team in that region. They're going to be one of the better seeds. It's probably 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever seed they are, because you figure Forge and Battlefield will be the 1-2 seeds, whether it's Battlefield 1, Forge 2, or vice versa. And oh, by the way, there might be a couple other teams that throw a monkey wrench into that, because Woodbridge is good and Patriots not bad, and there's some really good football teams in Region 6B, but heck of a game in that one. Number 2 on hits, the takeaways. Biggest win of the night, as big as that was for Colonial Forge, you could argue Poquoson beating Lafayette for the first time since 2011, doing so in overtime, 10-7, monster deal. I was just mentioning to my good pal from the Daily Press and Pilot this week, Marty O'Brien, talking about the Poquoson Lafayette game. You know, I wondered about Poquoson not having that punter anymore, and Mr. Josh Mitchell, who was one of the best in the state. Could that hurt them a little bit in field position in this game? Picked Lafayette, as most people probably did, and Poquoson showed just how great their defense is. They've got guys from Conley at linebacker to Carter Jones in the D-line that make plays well in sync, all 3 levels, and to keep Lafayette to just 1 touchdown, no scores in the overtime, speaks volumes. Another game was at Poquoson, but in Region 2A, where Armstrong has been just shellacking people, TJ of Richmond put up a 60-burger on Booker T. Washington, and there's some other teams that you have to pay attention to, Central Lunenburg, among others. King William is always dangerous and a sneaky team, though they took a pretty big L recently. Poquoson has the type of defense. Defense wins championships, and that defense can travel them into deep November and perhaps once again in December as the reigning 3-time region champs. Huge win to beat Lafayette. Could be a 10-0 season at Poquoson. That is a major deal and huge for them in trying to get that number 1 seed and having to play at home throughout the playoffs. Major deal for them. Number 3, quarterbacks. People love quarterback rankings. I talked about last week how maybe the best QB in the 757 could arguably be Tyrell Grant of Nansemond River, who was committed to Syracuse. And there's some others in the conversation, like Lonnie Andrews III at Oscar Smith, like Maricus Banks at Phoebus, such as Marcus Chapman of Hampton, and such as Kevin Parker at Denby, among others. But get your rankings ready for the class of 2028, 2029 QBs. I got to wait. How about my man out there, Coach B. Williams at Green Run? Heck of a comeback win for your Stallions tonight, by the way, over Kempsville. I almost went to that game, and I'm wishing I probably did, because it would have been 5 minutes from my house, and I would have gotten home a lot sooner, and I might not have had the blue screen of death. Good win for the Stallions coming back to beat the Chiefs of Kempsville High for being down 10-0. That running game with Charles Jackson and the Pitbull, Tristan Williams, they're helping them. And the defense with Corbin Watson and his pick 6. But back to my quarterback thing there. You see Chuck McCoy III saying, Damo at Maury. Yeah, I'm getting to him. 2028, 2029. Any rankings that do quarterback lists, and I know there's all kinds of lists and rankings out there. They rank kids when they're in the 5th grade. If you don't have Damo Everett from Maury and Parker Lowe of Honaker on your list at number 1 or number 2 or number 3 in the conversation, you're crazy. Listen to these video game numbers. You can't do this in Madden if you try. And you say, well, they beat Grundy and Churchland. Well, Churchland was undefeated, by the way. And Grundy's not the biggest pushover in Class 1. Let's go to the freshman first and low. He goes 15 of 19 for 304 yards and 7 touchdowns. There's a lot of kids in high school that can't do that against air. Okay? And Grundy's been in the playoffs before and advanced in the postseason, so they're not the biggest pushover. And Honaker hasn't been walloping people. But this kid's a 9th grader, and I've been hearing all summer how he's one to watch out for. And Honaker's they've had an air raid offense in the past. They've had a recent coaching change. Goes 15 of 19 for 304 and a school record with 7 TDs as a freshman. What's this kid going to be like when he's a junior or senior? I'm sure other schools will be trying to poach him, but my goodness. And then Damo Everett, whose older brother is in the SEC at Georgia with the Bulldogs. He's had a little bit of a rocky start. His first 3 games were not easy, folks. As a 10th grader, he has to first fill the shoes of a Torrey Newkirk, who's at North Carolina in the ACC, 2-time state player of the year. His first 3 games at Cardinal Gibbons of North Carolina, at Verina, and against Bishop McNamara. And he had some INTs, he had some missed throws, he had some mistakes. But you know what? When you play that type of schedule, it's going to benefit you later on. 15 of 23, 336, and 7 TDs in a 77-6 blowout of Churchland. And Churchland was averaging almost 48 points per game. And again, I know their schedule wasn't what Maury's was. But I would say he used that bye week well, and he's adjusting just fine. So those two young quarterbacks, we're going to get a chance to watch them for 2 and 3 more years beyond this one. And if you have a quarterback better than those two right now in the 2028 and 2029 list, I want to see their numbers, and I want to watch them play. And there could be one out there, but my goodness, both those numbers were just head spinning. And I'm not sure either one of them played much at all in the fourth quarter if they didn't need to. Number 4. I was surveying a lot of different things because I had number 5 I saved. So I like to lead off with number 1 and number 5, give you some interesting ones in between there. I was looking at the LCA Liberty Christian win over Jefferson Forest, who I picked. I'll admit it. I picked Jefferson Forest to knock off the 2-time defending Class 3 champs. Got that one wrong. GW Danville, which I know my man Coach Harris out there, who coaches Green Run basketball, is excited about them winning tonight over Lord Botetourt, who's knocked from the ranks of the unbeaten. Thought about giving Magna Vista some love. Thought about giving Centerville, who beat Washington Liberty, some love. But I went to Loudon up there in Northern Virginia, where for years you hear about Westfield and Madison and Centerville and Stonebridge, who responded very well from their loss to Quince Orchard by shellacking Woodgrove 38 donut. And I'm sure we'll be talking about Stonebridge in the weeks to come in Class 5 and Nova football. But Loudoun County and Loudoun Valley get forgotten about. We talk about Fredericksburg sometimes even forgotten about in Roanoke because there's so much attention on Tidewater, Richmond, and Nova, and understandably so. So many prospects come from those areas, the 757, the 804 to 703. Loudoun County and Loudoun Valley, both 5-0. Loudoun County beat Tuscarora for just like the 3rd or 4th time in school history, and they walloped them 42-14. And we had them in the top 10 in Class 4. And if I'm not mistaken, their quarterback transferred to a private school, or he transferred out of state right before the season, like a month or 2 before the season. So they haven't missed a beat, have the captains. Big tip of the cap to them on that. And they have a big-time offensive lineman in Carter Scruggs headed to Clemson. Loudoun Valley, first 4-0 and now 5-0 start since 1988 as they thump Potomac Falls 51-6. So get it on your calendar. I'm sure the game I'll be at next week will be October 3rd, Highland Springs and Phoebus at Dawling Stadium. It's going to be a fun one. October 10th, if I do venture outside the 757 and go to a game, I'm definitely going to watch this game if I don't go to it. But Loudoun County, Loudoun Valley is interesting to me because they both could be undefeated, and that could be the Super Bowl for those two schools in that area. And it might be chapter 1 of 2 because they might run into each other again in the Region 4C finals. And while everybody's talking about Phoebus and Verina and perhaps by then Jefferson Forest and some others in Class 4 to contend for a championship, who knows, Louisa or a Dinwiddie or a Huguenot if they're able to knock off a Verina in that region. But 4C is going to have somebody in the state Final Four. And those two teams, I'm not sure much of the state knows about, and they're starting to gain a little more traction. And we'll see what they do as they get closer to that big game coming up on October 10th. So that one caught my eye tonight. And number 5, we told you a few weeks ago we were gushing about the best running back in the state being the 5-star. It's rated a 5-star everywhere, be it on Rivals, be it on this recruiting service, that recruiting service, with us at On3 too. Savion Hyder at Louisa, who was just fantastic a few weeks ago in their win over Cortland. Well, Michigan's getting not just the best running back in Virginia, they're getting the best wide receiver in Virginia too, and Travis Johnson, who if some had questions or concerns or wondered about his speed or just how good he was, if he was just a jump ball athletic wide receiver, which he does that great. Basketball turned football stand out and reminds me so much of Justin Hunter, who his coach Chris Scott coached at Ocean Lakes many years ago and made it to the NFL. Well, Travis has those type of qualities and attributes in his game. And over 6 days where they played a rival in Indian River and a district rival in Kings Fork, he goes for 7 catches, 170 yards, and 3 touchdowns in a win over the Braves. And then he goes for 7 grabs, 196 yards, and 2 tuds against Kings Fork. So I think he's answered the questions just how good he is. He's validated the 4-star ability. And the thing I like is the yards after the catch, the route running. He's playing with a little bit of a swagger now, a little bit of a chip and edge. And it will be interesting to see if they run into a team in Class 6 that can try to take him away and make Smith beat them another way. Smith with the physicality, with the defense. But and his quarterback's mighty good in Lonnie Andrews III. But to me, looking like one of the best receiver prospects in the state in the last 5-6 years. And he's making the type of plays that Keandre Lambert-Smith did his senior year when Maury won the state championship, and now Lambert-Smith playing for the LA Chargers in the National Football League as a rook. So there you have it. Those are the 5 hits. Again, Forge and North Stafford, heck of a ball game. Pocosin, big ups to them, 10-7 over Lafayette in overtime. I had them losing by 2 scores. Didn't see it coming. Those 2 young QBs, the one at Honaker in Southwest Virginia, Mr. Lowe, and Mr. Damo Everett at Maury. Put them on your 2028, 2029 recruiting boards out there. Loudoun County, Loudoun Valley, October 10th. Be there or be square. And you say, why? Well, it might be a 35-34 or 14-13 nail biter. And Travis Johnson has been as good as advertised, if not better, in these 2 spotlight games 6 days apart against the Braves of Indian River and the Bulldogs of Kings Fork. So there you have it. A couple quick hitters, some quick picks for you. And I'll eat some crow. I had the Rams last week over the Eagles, folks. I'm telling you, that's as bad a beat as there is. Thank goodness there was anything on it. So I got that one wrong. But college football, there are some monster games this weekend. A huge win for UVA, as we mentioned, over Florida State. But you look at Oregon and Penn State. Quick thought on that game. I do think Penn State's running game, especially between the tackles and bouncing outside, at home against the Ducks, in that environment, the whiteout, I think it'll be enough to win it, probably by a score or 2. Alabama, Georgia, I don't see Bama winning that game. I'm surprised the spread's as low as it is, 2.5. I like the Bulldogs to stay unblemished, probably win by a couple scores, and maybe comfortably. Sneaky good game is Tennessee at Mississippi State. Mississippi State had themselves a whale of a win a couple weeks ago against Arizona State. We're up the whole game, lost the lead late, and then recovered with a huge long pass down the field. In Indiana with Kurt Signetti, the former JMU coach, they keep rolling. We both got that wrong, did Coach Young and I. Thought they would maybe fall to Illinois, and they just absolutely eviscerated Illinois and the Illini. So they got Iowa on the road, who's known for a good defense, not that extravagant on offense. LSU at Ole Miss, that's a great game. I wonder about the LSU running game. If it's really, they're near the bottom of the SEC statistics. If they have enough to go win that game in Oxford, Ole Miss is a slight favorite. And Ohio State, Washington has a little bit of that, feels to me like Florida State, UVA. FSU on the road, you say they're only favored by that much. Buckeyes only favored by 8.5. If they don't jump on Washington early, that could be a dangerous game for Mr. Sain and the Buckeyes. I'm just saying. So lots of great college football games on deck for this weekend. The college football slate's better than the NFL slate this weekend. It's by far better, and some great games. And I'll be over there at SB Ballard on the radio call for the Monarchs and the Flames. Let's hope the weather and Mother Nature cooperates for that one with a 6 o'clock Eastern kickoff over there in Norfolk. So that's going to do it. We thank you all for tuning in. And again, we'll be on with you for 757 Sports Talk at about 9:30-ish a.m. Eastern till about 11:30 a.m. Eastern, thereabouts. Yours truly and the coach. We've got some surprises and all kinds of neat things for you, including more high school football and in-state sports talk. So again, keep it tuned. Like, share, and subscribe to Cova Sports TV on YouTube, and we'll chat with you next time. Have a great sports weekend, and we'll do this again when the calendar turns from September to October. Yeah.